This is Minecraft 1.18 pre-release number 2, and if you came here in search of new features and big changes, well, this update is sadly not that. The pre-releases are where the focus is on minor tweaks and changes, lots of bug fixes, getting ready for the release of Caves and Cliffs Part 2. Now, there are things to talk about in this video, not the most exciting of things, but from here on out it is likely I'm going to be covering these pre-releases on my second channel. So if you want to follow those updates, learn about when the release date is, the place to do so is on my second channel. Be sure to go over there and subscribe. And speaking of release dates, you'll see here on the website that they haven't shared a release date with us as of yet. But there is some good news here. 1.18 is going to run on Java version 17. Hopefully that leads to better performance and stability. And there is a note here that if you're using the default launcher, the game will download Java 17 by default. If you're using a custom launcher or some sort of script, you're going to have to install Java 17 and use that yourself. So there is a really important fix in this pre-release for leaking the IP address of a server, which happened recently on Hermitcraft, and I think that might have prompted the devs to fix this, who knows. But if you are to fail to connect to a server or get disconnected from one, it'll leak the IP address into this screen here. And the reason that you're seeing all of these blocks is because I had a friend make a mod that would actually turn all of the text into blocks if it detected an IP address. So somewhere in there's an IP address, and yeah, this can be a big problem for streamers. And yeah, that is a much needed bug fix, since it can simply happen by you failing to connect to a server or getting disconnected when you're playing. So I'm glad to see that one's fixed for 1.18. So last video we were also in the Nether with a world border trying to use a portal, and unfortunately in pre-release 1 this crashed for me, but we're here to do this test again because I understand what's supposed to happen. We are at positive 100 and 100 in both directions, which means in the overworld the equivalent of this portal would be 800 and 800. And sadly it seems that going through the portal is going to crash my game again. Yep. It's just a matter of time now. And look at this, reloading the game has put me on the wrong side of the world border. So here is what the game is supposed to do. It's supposed to create this portal at the nearest coordinates inside of the world border. So here you'll see that we're at 100, 100 again, whereas what it would normally do is generate it at 800, 800. However, because of the world border, it's supposed to zap the nether portal inside, but this hasn't worked for me in pre-release 1 or pre-release 2, so I'm slightly concerned. And also from last week's pre-release, there was a change that I missed. The Conduit probe now has a default tool, and that is the pickaxe. With a stone one, it's very slow, but if we use a netherite one in comparison, you can see it's much faster. So now the Conduit, the underwater beacon, has a tool that can be used to mine it. And also from last pre-release, there was a advancement that got renamed. This one, Caves and Cliffs, used to be called Fall from World Height. Now, before we get to the list of bugs with this pre-release, I got a couple of interesting tweets from the devs that I bookmarked. So from King B-Dogs, we have a tweet looking for feedback. It seems that the team are looking into the persistence of mobs, which is where they pick up items in the world and then they don't despawn. So the problem here is that there are plenty of items in this game that can just find themselves lying around in the world in caves where mobs might spawn and then be able to pick up the item if they have the ability to do that. So then you get lots of mobs in caves in your world that never despawn, and the problem here is that sometimes they pick up items that you don't want to then disappear, like your armor and weapons if you had just died. So Mojang are looking for a compromise here, and I really hope this one makes it into the pre-releases and into 1.18, because it's been a big deal this season on Hermitcraft. You play in a world and the mobs, they just accumulate in caves. The other tweet I wanted to share with you is from Henrik, who's been doing some bug fixes and finding some really interesting stuff with generating the acacia villages. And yeah, look at that. No one wants to see that, and by the sounds of it, no one will in this update. So now let's move on to the bugs that were fixed in pre-release 2. As you'll see, there was a lot of them. One of the common themes was fixing up the credits and making sure all the names were correct, and another one was relating to old worlds and updating them to the new one. There are tons of bugs related to that, so updating your world is one of the things they are focusing on. So I have thumbed over this massive list of bugs, and honestly there's not a lot of stuff that you really need to know about. Like, for example, did you know that a goat that was burning wouldn't pathfind towards water, but now I guess goats are a little bit smarter. Now here's a bug fix that might affect some of you out there that like to make mob farms and whatnot, but I think even the average player might notice this. There are mobs in the game that are biome specific, and due to the 3D biome system, the rate of these would be decreased compared to previous versions of the game. So things like husks and strays, polar bears and foxes, you wouldn't find them as frequently in the world, so this bug fix should hopefully address that. And we've all seen this before. It's the classic floating water that comes with world generation. This is a bug that's been marked as being fixed, so hopefully we won't see any of this anymore. But Minecraft is a big and complicated game with lots of complicated code, and honestly I wouldn't be surprised if we see that one again, but supposedly we shouldn't see any more floating water in the world. And doesn't this terrain right here just look absolutely fantastic? So it's like I said at the beginning, if you want to keep following these pre-releases, the place to do so is on my second channel. And if you've enjoyed this one, be sure to leave a like. Thanks for the support, and I'll see you soon with another video. Bye bye.